friends! Welcome to Cooking with Mrs. Heberling. Today we're going to make a little mini apple turnover. And the first thing that we have to do before we cook anything or touch any food is wash our hands. Now I just did that before I started the video, but if you have not washed your hands yet, pause the video and go wash your hands. Okay, now that we've washed our hands and our hands are all clean, we're going to gather our ingredients. So I first got a little bowl where I'm going to put all of my stuff. So that's ready to go. And our recipe calls for 1/3 cup of sugar, which I keep in here. I'm going to put all of my dry ingredients in my bowl. So then after I cut my apples up, I can just add them to the bowl and mix it all up in there. So I have my sugar, and it says 1/3 of a cup. So I have these handy dandy little measuring cups that tell me exactly how much it is. And this is the size for 1/3 of a cup. So I'm just going to fill this up with sugar and dump it in my bowl. So I have 1/3 cup of sugar, and in it goes. The next thing our recipe calls for is 1 tablespoon of flour. So this is my little measuring spoon that tells me 1 tablespoon of flour. So I keep my flour in this little container, and I'm just going to scoop out like 1 tablespoon, not too much. And in it goes with the sugar. The last dry ingredient we need is 1½ teaspoons of cinnamon. Here's my cinnamon. Cinnamon smells so good. Oh, it makes me think of fall. So my teaspoon, this was our tablespoon we used for the flour, and a teaspoon is a little bit smaller. So we're going to use this one to get the sugar. And we need 1 and then half of these. So I'm going to do this one first with my cinnamon. I don't want to go too crazy with the cinnamon. So I'm going to follow the recipe just like it says. And I have this one that tells me it's exactly half of the teaspoon. So we need 1 of those of cinnamon too. And then I'm just going to mix those together. Mix, mix, mix. So it kind of looks like a little brown mixture. You can see I'm just kind of mixing it up so it's nice and smooth. And then when we add our apples, we'll toss it with this yummy, yummy mixture, and we'll be ready to go. So our recipe calls for 2 cups of chopped up apples. So I have a little 2-cup measuring cup here that tells me it's exactly 2 cups. And I'm going to use this to put my apples in, so I know that I have enough. And I picked out 4 apples. I'm guessing that will be enough. And I'm going to have to chop those up. But while I'm chopping those up, I'm going to let my oven preheat and get ready. So I have to turn my oven on to 400 degrees to bake. It's going to take a little while. Oh, I almost forgot. One of the most important ingredients is the pie crust. We have to have pie crust. Now, you can make your own pie crust, but you can also use ones from the store that are like this. This is the one I'm using. This has 2 pie crust in it, which we need, and I've let them sit out for a little bit so they can thaw out and be soft and easy to work with when we're ready to cut them. So now that we have all our ingredients, I need to chop the apples. So come along, let's chop some apples. Now that our apples are all cut up, and I have 2 cups, and guess what? I had some apples left over. So 4 apples was too many, but guess what? That means I have a little bit of a snack I can snack on while I wait for the apple pie to cook. So do you remember our flour, sugar, and cinnamon mixture? I'm going to just dump those apples right in there. Make sure I get all of them. I did cut my apples up kind of small because that way they cook better for this recipe. If you make an apple pie, I like to leave them big because then they're kind of chunky and it makes it really delicious. So I just got a spoon, and I'm going to mix this until all of the apples are covered up with the cinnamon, flour, and sugar mixture. because then we get to work with the crust. That's a lot of fun. So mix, 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 and oh man, does it smell so good. It smells like cinnamon. It's kind of making me hungry. This will be a good dessert after our lunch, or maybe you save it for after dinner. And you'll have enough to share with your family. Alright, so I have one apple that's really big, didn't get chopped up very well. I'm just going to kind of chop it with my spoon. Alright, now, see how my apples are all coated? Oh, it smells delicious. So now, we get to roll out 2 apple crust, or pie crust. And I have a special little mat that's made just for pies. And I'm not putting it directly on my counter. I'm just putting it on this. You can put it on a cutting board, or maybe you have wax paper or aluminum foil or something like that. So I have to kind of roll it out careful because I don't want it to break. And I'm going to do it over to the side so I have room for both of my pie crust. There, see? Looks like a round, looks kind of like a pizza crust. It's going to be so delicious. Do you like apple pie? I love apple pie. And this one's kind of nice because it's an individual little pie pocket. So I'm going to roll this one out. And then our recipe said to cut the pie crust into quarters. Now, I think of pie crust as quarters being like money, but we're not doing that. We're going to cut it into 4 pieces. That's what it means when you cut it into quarters. Then you have 4 pieces. Man, it's not good to cough when you're cooking, but I turned away and covered my mouth, so we're good. So I have a little pizza cutter that I'm going to use, and I'm going to roll it across this so it doesn't cut my pie mat, because this is plastic. So I'm going to do 1 roll this way, and 1 roll that way. Okay, so this one I have 4 pieces now. They kind of look like slices of pizza. And we're going to do that with the other crust too. So I'm just going to go across this way 1 time. So that's a half. So I have 2 pieces now. And then I'm going to go from the other side and roll my pizza cutter across. So that's another half. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces on this side. And if I keep counting, I'm going to have 8 pieces all together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've talked about this in school, that 4 and 4, that's a double. We have 8. You're going to have 8 pieces of pie crust or apple pies for your family. So the next step is, it says to take about 1/3 of a cup. So we're going to bring back our old 1/3 measuring cup that we used before, and it says to put that on half of the pie crust. So I'm going to kind of scoop out my apples from here into this, and I'm going to just kind of pour it on the crust a little bit. I'm actually going to do that with all of them, with the apples, before I start to fold them over. So then we can kind of figure out if we have enough before we start, enough apples. So a little bit there, a little bit here, and it says to do it on 1/2, so don't put it right in the middle because you're going to fold some of them over. You have to leave some crust. Oops, that did not come out. It's getting kind of sticky. All right, I hope I have enough apples here. And I might use my spoon to spread it out a little bit more. Da-da-da. Oh yeah, I have plenty of apples. So if we want to, we might be able to add extra apples. But I want to make sure we can fold these over first. So it's on part of, it says on half, and then you fold the other half over the top. So you just kind of make it like a little pocket and try to make it so all the apple stuff stays inside. To me, this looks like a apple pie pizza. And I'm just going to mush it down a little bit with my fingers. Oops, there's apple sneaking out. Okay. And there's a trick to doing pie crust to try to make it stick together really good. You can use a fork to smush it down, so then the apple stuff won't fall out. So I'm just going around and pushing it down on the edges so my apples won't sneak out. Doop-de-doop-de-doop. Doop-de-doop. So I'm going to take this little, whoops, that one didn't stick very well. I'm going to do this one again. So hopefully the pie crust will stay closed. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it on my pan right here. I think they'll all fit, and it's supposed to be an ungreased cookie pan or cookie sheet, and this one is a non-stick pan that I have, so you don't need to put anything on it. Sometimes I put parchment paper in it so it comes up real easy in case the sugar oozes out. So I'm going to put this to the side, and then we can work on the rest of these together. I'm going to speed it up a little bit, but you can take your time and do this. So let's speed it up as we make our apple pies. Okay, I have a full cookie sheet with my little mini apple pie turnovers, and we get to put them in the oven. Come on, let's go do that. Okay, we're ready to cook our apple pie turnovers. You can see my oven is preheated. It's ready to go. It says 400 degrees. So let's open the oven. Ooh, it's hot. You might want to let a grown-up do this part. Be very careful. Slide it in and close the oven, and then set the timer for, I have to check the recipe, hold on. We have to set it for 15 to 20 minutes. So I'm going to do it for 15 and check back in a minute, or at 15, and see if they look done, if they're brown on the top. If not, we'll cook them for a little bit longer. So let's set the timer on my oven for, we're gonna do it for 15 minutes. So my timer says 15, and we're gonna push timer go. And then we have to go clean up the mess we made while it cooks. So come back when it's done. Guess what, friends? My timer's going off. Let's check our apple turnovers. Here we go. I'm going to flip the camera around so you can see, or maybe I'm not. So I'm going to stop my timer because that's annoying, but what do you think? They look kind of brown on the top, a little bit brown, but not too much. I call these apple turnovers officially ready. Let's take them out and let them cool off. Okay, here's our finished apple turnovers, and we are going to let these cool off a little bit, and then I think I'm going to put some ice cream on top tonight when I try them out. Looks yummy. Delicious. I hope you enjoy.